incomes, strengthen rural communities, optimize health, and support environmental resilience. And now what we've all been waiting for. I'm really happy to introduce friend and colleague Matt Wilson. Matt is a member of the Sicangu Lakota Nation, and he is a fellow Rockefeller Food System Vision Prize winner. And so without further ado, Matt, I'm going to pass the virtual mic over to you, and I'll let you do more of your own introduction rather than people hearing me talk more. So thank you again for being here, and I look forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Marla. Hamadakepi, Matt Wilson Machaplo, Sicangu Lakota Makoche, Mataha, Sicangu Food Sovereignty Initiative, Hi everyone, my name is Matt Wilson. I'm from the Rosebud Reservation, located in South Central South Dakota. And I work for Sicangu Co, and I'm the Food Sovereignty Initiative Director. And like Marla said, Sicangu Co is one of the 10 fellow Food System Vision Prize visionary teams. So we also have our own set of, visions for the year 2050, and our vision is called the 7-Gen Food System Vision. And so my presentation will kind of get a little bit into it. But I'm really happy to be here today to share kind of the work we're doing on the ground on Rosebud. And if you have any questions, I'll happy to answer them at the end.
There we go. Perfect.
Okay. All right. So the name of my presentation is Ecosystem Model for a Place-Based Approach to Food Sovereignty. So just to give some background, my nation is called Sicangu. So I'm here, just a little picture. Sicangu, meaning we are Sicangu. And then the bottom left corner is a picture of our flag. And then just to give some more background too, so kind of the word Sicangu, it translates to burnt thigh, and it's a really beautiful story in terms of how we got that name, and it comes from a time when back in the day when the grasses were so tall, but there was a time when there was a prairie fire, and we were trying to outrun it. But we just could not do it. The winds were picking up and they're causing the fires to really pick up, and they were right behind us. And so our elders at the time told our warriors to take our children and wrap them up in wet blankets and robes, and carry them above them. And they knew that they couldn't outrun the fire, so the best way to get through it was to go face the fire and directly went through it to get to the other side. At first, our warriors didn't want to do this because they didn't want to leave their elders behind to perish. But they knew that they had to in order to ensure that our people lived on. So that's what they did. They gathered our young, and the people who were able to move and run ran through the fire, which resulted in some of bad burns on their legs and up on their torso. So that's how we got that name, burnt thigh. So really kind of as a name of honor and sacrifice. In terms of where we're located, is Rosebud Reservation, located in South Central South Dakota. The top picture you see here is kind of the original lands of the Chedishakwing. I should say original, but it's kind of the for Laramie Tree lands. Kind of to where we are today, where Rosebud is kind of mostly comprised in the county of Todd County. And then we have some lands in the names of Todd, Millette, Tripp, and Lyman. And so we are part of the Ochetishakling, or Great Sioux Nation. And so we are one of the 7 Lakota tribes. And this was just a video to kind of explain where we got our name, but I went over real quick to share it with you already. So just to get some demographics. So we have about 34,000 tribal members that we serve. Life expectancy is 68 compared to that with 78 for the US. Median income, 22,000. Unemployment rate is at 82%. As completion rate is at 60%. college completion rate is at 5%. And we are in dire need of housing. We need an estimated at least 3,000 homes for the amount of people we have on the reservation. So we have a lot of these demographics working against us. But in order to kind of get into our vision, I kind of wanted to give a brief background into kind of our traditional lifestyles and kind of how we ended up to these current demographics and this current the disparity that we're living in right now. So I think you may all be similar to a lot of Plains tribes. We're very nomadic people. Same thing for Lakota and Sicangu people. So a lot of our foods were dehydrated. This helped us because we were having to travel so much. It was lighter for us. The bottom right corner is a picture of the traditional ancestral lands. When it goes up into North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, Minnesota, into Wisconsin, Iowa, and Nebraska. These are just some pictures of some of our foods. These are ground plums, chiaka or prairie mint, buffalo berries. My favorite food is prairie turnips, or what we call kimsela, wild rice, choke cherries. I'm pretty sure you all might have these in your areas. And then these are some of our animal proteins that we consumed: prairie chicken, deer, bison. We were big bison people, duck, and an antelope. And these are some of our medicines. So sweetgrass, echinacea, wild bergamot, box elder. And so for Lakota people, we're very much connected to the buffalo. And in fact, part of our creation stories. We emerged from Wind Cave, which is located in South Dakota, in the Black Hills. And part of our emergence story is that we came out of the Black Hills and out of this Wind Cave, and we did not know how to survive on Earth. And so the buffalo came after us, and they took pity on us. And so they came out in the form of this animal, this buffalo. And they already knew how to kind of live on this land. And so they sacrificed themselves, and they taught us also how to be good relatives and how to live on this land. And so they sacrificed themselves so that we can use their meat for food, their hides for clothing and shelter, and their bones for tools. And so we very much would not be here without the buffalo. And so the U.S. government knew that for us, that buffalo were a keystone species for the prairie, and we also relied upon them for not only just food source, but for our economy. We use buffalo for a lot of trading as well with other indigenous nations. And so the U.S. government knew that, and so that was kind of the first thing they did to kind of assimilate us, was attack our food system. And so that picture on the right, I'm sure a lot of people have seen it before, but just a big pile of buffalo skulls. And then the picture on the left is actually one of the first pictures of the Rosebud Reservation. Some other means that they tried to assimilate us as government food rations. So indigenous people had a very vibrant, food system. So showing all those pictures of our original diets to now, where we're forced to eat flour, sugar, oil. These foods were so foreign to us. And this is kind of the time where fry bread came out of, and fry bread has a very, mixed, I guess it's very complex in terms of an Indian country. Some people like it, some people, really dispel it. And so, and then to further kind of add to this is the loss of traditional ecological knowledge in terms of boarding schools. A lot of elders went to boarding schools, and those who were able to survive, didn't feel like they were able to share that knowledge and that language with their families. Some people weren't able to even return home. A few years ago, we had some relatives from Carlisle return after many years back to Rosebud. So we were able to have a ceremony and actually have their bones returned back to Rosebud. And so it was a really big deal for us to finally bring them home. So all these things kind of resulted into those demographics I showed you earlier, into our current food system, to what we're having now, where people are eating, the current food system where we have fried bread or Indian tacos and these hot Cheetos and all these processed foods. So why do we do this work? So our goal and our name for our food system vision is 7Gen. And our tribe actually thought about the name and put it in our, amended it into our constitution. And so this is an excerpt here. So the tribal council shall develop plans and consider implications of the decisions they make on the next 7 generations. And so that is what we did in our own plan. So what is 7Gen? 7Gen is acting in the best interest of our great-grandchildren's great-grandchildren. So it's thinking 7 generations into the future and thinking about the decisions that we make today and how it affects generations to come. And it also forces us to make moral and ethical decisions. And it also forces us to embrace complex systems. In Lakota, we call this wodakuye. And it kind of means understanding where your relatives come from, so knowing who your cousins are and who your uncles and aunties are. But it also forces us to understand our own relationship within nature, with the land, with the water, with the plant animal relatives, knowing that we're all connected. And then we also have this other piece, it's called Nakinulawan. It's another concept. It's all about being prepared. It translates to I'm prepared for anything, anywhere, at any time. So it's always a phrase that Lakota people have always embraced in terms of always being prepared for the seasons, always being prepared for what's to come. And so we've always taken and embraced these values, and we embrace these values within our 7Gen food system as well. And so in terms of our approach to our work, we do this through an ecosystem. And I'll get to a little bit what that is. But in terms of the reasons why we did that, a lot of it came down to spiritual reasons. We believe that indigenous change making, our approach has to be holistic. We can't just focus on economic development. We also have to focus on community development as well, while building and nation building. And again, wodake, which is this recognizing the interconnection and interrelatedness of people, families, communities, and systems. And again, we can't build our economy without also uplifting the baseline conditions of where people live. So we can't build this food system without building enough homes. We can't build enough homes without building enough, education systems. And so everything is all connected. And so we are doing all of this work and not only just focusing on food. We also believe that indigenous worldview, local solutions to global problems is what we always say. And our work is very place-based. And we also believe that communities need to lean into that. There's no silver bullet to solutions to face, climate change or social inequity. And so for us, we do what's best for us. And so we always urge other communities to do what's best for their own communities. I think it's important to share what worked for us, but you need to really lean in to see what works best for your own community. In terms of strategic, we operate in 3 areas. So we are an ecosystem made up of 3 organizations working under one shared mission and vision. So we have a for-profit supporting 2 nonprofits. One is a community development corporation, and one is a CDFI, a community development financial institution. And so having all 3 of these different business models, we're able to have increased access to funding opportunities and a more clear focus on community development. And so what does our ecosystem do? And so these are just some of the areas that we work on. So entrepreneurship and wealth building, food sovereignty, facilities management, financial services, construction design. Whenever I talk to people, I would say we work from anywhere from construction to education. So we do a lot. So just to give a breakdown, again, Sicangu Co, it's kind of an umbrella that we're working under, but we are 3 organizations with separate EINs. And the mission we're working under is, as Lakota, we believe we're all related, and that is our duty to create a better world for future generations. And again, REDCO is our Rosebud Economic Development Corporation, which is the for-profit. And they're focused on business, policy, and leadership development. And then my program, which is the Food Sovereignty Initiative, fits under Sicangu Community Development Corporation, which is the 501c3 nonprofit. And we also focus on education, health, and housing. And then we have Sicangu Funds, which is our community development financial institution. So they are focusing on financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and asset building. And so just to give you some examples of some of the food work we're doing in terms of our vision, I kind of want to start with my own initiative. Our goal is to transform our own food system and to one that's more healthier and regenerative, that supports tribal sovereignty. So we do this at the community level. In our 3 areas that we're working in is to develop small and innovative small-scale regenerative agriculture models, and to build a local food economy, and then to build this food sovereignty movement on Rosebud. And we were the first initiative launched under Red Co originally. And then we currently have a staff of 8. And then just like you all, we are also a Food System Vision Prize visionary team. This is a picture inside our geodesic greenhouse. But one of our biggest projects today has been our Kiowa Gardens. It's a 1-acre teaching and production farm where we focus on regenerative agriculture. Right now we're doing mixed vegetable productions, regenerative egg production. It's an incubator space for our farm apprenticeship program, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And then we also host youth interns and workers at the farm. And then the produce that we grow up there, it goes into our farmers market, and it also goes into our farm to school activities. So we manage a farmers market that runs seasonally from May through September. It's all direct to consumer. We provide all the canopies, the tables and chairs for any vendor that wants to come and set up. We don't charge any kind of setup fee. And we are able to collect cash, credit, debit, and SNAP. I don't have the latest numbers for 2023, but I think the last time I checked, we had about 38 vendors that came through last year. And then we have an average of about 15 to 16 vendors that come every market, every week. We have a TSA program. It's a spinoff to a community supported agriculture program, or a CSA program. It's basically a subsidized subscription-based food box program aimed at increasing local food access, while also supporting local food producers. So we aggregate some local food products, put it in a box, and ship it out to community members. It also contains some of our own produce and food products as well. In the past, we've also included some other regional food products as well. So wild rice from Red Lake Nation in Minnesota, and some coffee from other roasters in the area, coffee roasters. With our health initiative, we launched a pilot food prescription program, which has really developed into this health and wellness coaching program. We've coined it the Food is Good Medicine program. Right now, we partner with our diabetes prevention program and wellness center, where we host classes. Currently, it's a 6-month program where we recruit families, and they come in once a month to do a class, focus on nutrition education, and then they do like an exercise class, and then at the end they get a prescription or an incentive for so much amount of money. I think it's at $1 per day for up to a family members of 4. So you could potentially get up to $124 per month, I believe is how they do it, which you can use and redeem at the farmer's market, or you can redeem at one of the local grocery stores, and it can be utilized for fresh or frozen fruits and vegetables. In terms of our workforce development, we have our farm apprenticeship program. Our goal is to increase the amount of local food producers on Rosebud, and so we do this through our 8-month apprenticeship program. So we recruit tribal food producers, where they work with us for 8 months to gain food production skills. And one of their kind of key final projects is to develop a farm plan, and where they can submit a budget up to $5,000 for start cost. And then they submit their plan and present it in front of our steering committee, and then they have the ability to be awarded up to $5,000 in a seed. And we are also doing some pilot farm to school activities as well. We have a Lakota immersion school called Wakanja Kitoki. Right now we have grades K through 3rd, and our plan is to be able to add a grade each year, eventually going up 2 grades K through 5. And so we work with the school to be able to have bison harvest. We have bison in their school lunch program. And then we also source some of our produce to be able to include in their lunch program as well. Also under our health initiative, they host youth cultural camps. They do a school health cooking class. And then we recently started doing gardening kit programs. So last year, I think we've been able to give out 40 gardens to 40 community members. So basically we were able to go into community members and install gardens. And for elders, we've been able to do like raised garden beds and platform beds, so that it also helps increase mobility, but also increases this food access. In terms of our learning and development department, we also have youth internship programs. We have a 7-Gen program, which is a holistic summer internship program. It's a 10-week program for high school and college students aged 16 to 24. And each week is designed to work on a different area within our ecosystem. So 1 week they'll focus on like food sovereignty, where they'll go into the garden, we'll do a buffalo harvest, and we'll do like wild food harvest, and a lot of food skill classes. Next week they'll work in the health initiative, doing some of those cooking classes and doing some of those coaching programs. And then they'll go on throughout the program to do different work with our different initiatives. And then finally, we have our adult workforce development program. This is in partnership with our local tribal college, Sicangu University. And this is just to allow us to be able to work with their juniors and seniors to have a placement site for their internships. And so they're able to work at our ecosystem in different areas that they are kind of majoring in. So eventually that they'll have a place where they can apply to when they're done with college. And lastly, as our Lakota Regenerative Buffalo Range. And so Lakota launched in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. So our vision for this was came out from our community wanting to have a better relationship with buffalo. And so we had no choice and we made it happen. And so what happened was that we were able to secure a 28,000, it was a cattle ranch at the time, and it was very overgrazed and it just wasn't managed properly. And we were able to work with our tribe to be able to lease that for 15 years. And we were able to work with some funders, including the World Wildlife Fund and the Department of Interior, to be able to get the first 200 bison from several different national parks to bring bison to our Lakota Bison Ranch. And our goal was to be able to, over 5 years, increase it from 200 to 1,500. And just over the course of 3 years, we've been able to get them up to 1,200. And so they've been able to grow exponentially. And even when we work with the World Wildlife Fund, they've been able to work with us to do some monitoring in terms of see what is the impact of what has had on that land. They originally told us that we shouldn't be able to see anything for at least 5 years, but even in just 3 years, we've been able to see a reduction in invasive grass species and an increase in biodiversity in terms of the amount of bird species that we've seen, and an increase of prairie grasses. And some background on our Lakota Immersion School, again, grades K through 3rd. The name translates to Children's First Learning Center. And I'm really excited every time I go into the school just to hear Lakota being spoken by these young kids. My little brother actually is in 3rd grade class, and he started whenever they first started their kindergarten class. So it's really amazing to hear him come home and like speak in Lakota, and he's like so confident. He's like even singing. It's just amazing. It's like even healing for me. I'm not even a speaker myself. I'm still learning. So it's probably going to be one of the first fluent speakers in their family. These are just some pictures of what their typical lunch looks like, using bison and some of the produce from our farm. And then this is just some quotes from Sage Fastlock, who's our head of the school. And this is what he had to say. He said, food is both biologically and spiritually nourishing for kids, especially since they are closer to home and the stars than we are as adults. Giving children access to our traditional food will encourage them to eat healthier as they grow. By eating healthier and teaching traditional ecological knowledge together, the kids are receiving a full experience of holistic wellness. And then this is just some pictures they do. Every year they do like a bison unit. They'll learn everything there is about bison, including like the creation story. They'll learn everything there is to all their uses for different parts of the bison. And then they finally end their kind of unit by doing an actual harvest with the school and the family. And then, so that's just like a picture of them doing the harvest. And then on the left is a recipe book that we help them create that the family can take home and cook at home. And they also come up to the garden throughout the year to learn different garden activities. They actually helped us create these those signage. They help translate some of our produce signs into Lakota. It's just amazing whenever they get up there, just seeing little kids be excited to like, you know, harvest some carrots. It's just amazing. And so this is what we've learned about food sovereignty in the past 10 years. Food sovereignty isn't just about food. It needs to include language, cultural revitalization, economic development, holistic health, land stewardship, community development, overall being good relatives. It starts with relationships and our duty to ensure a safe and abundant world for future generations. And we always say we aren't just doing this work for our own people, but we're doing this work for everyone. And it's important to respect, recognize, and celebrate indigenous identities and lifeways as part of solutions. And we also base our own solutions on our own values, our own culture, and our connection with each other and with the land. And then in terms of what else we've learned too is that it's a slow process and sometimes it's messy. But what's worked for us is that community input is very important. That's kind of how our food sovereignty initiative started. People wanted more access to local foods. People to learn how to grow their own food. So that's kind of how our initiative started, which is also how the Lakota branch started as well. We wanted more relationships to buffalo. We wanted to see them. People wanted to consume buffalo again. So that's why we started the ranch. And it's also about consistency and trust building. When we first started our farmers market back in 2016, we were the only one vendor. It was a very pitiful farmers market. But we showed up every week and every season to now where we have at least 15 to 16 vendors coming each week. We're like one of the largest farmers market in our region of South Dakota. And then lastly, our proof of concepts. It's hard for our community to see what's possible without seeing proof of what can be possible. So a lot of times we're having to pilot things first. We're always being the first ones to do it. And then oftentimes we pass it off to other organizations to do, which is totally fine by us. We know that we cannot do everything there needs to be done to, fix all the systems that plague our res. And so we do what we can to do the proof of concepts, and it's been working out so far. In terms of partnerships, external partnerships and internal, on our community side, again, proof of concept, doing it first and then passing it off to them to do, passing the baton. External, really working with external partners and in terms of values alignment. A lot of times we've had to turn down partnerships and funding because it didn't align with us. And then early investment. A lot of times we didn't have project ready proposals like Lakota. We just had an idea and we ran with it. We didn't know if it was going to be possible to be funded, and sure enough, it came about. And then non-extractive relationships. We're still kind of figuring out what that means for us too, and we even talked about what resources are. We even think resources can be storytelling and like perspectives and how that can be extracted. And so we're really careful about how relationships are and what that extractive relationships means. In terms of like future direction and what's next for us and how we reach our 2050 vision, our goal is to spark hope, to develop new ways of thinking and to show what is possible. In terms of on our community initiative side, one of my goals from the very start, when I first started back in 2018, was to develop a social enterprise eatery, whether that be a cafe or a restaurant, that focuses on workforce development, but also as a market channel for local foods, and as a community space. Right now, we are developing a Sicangu Innovation Center, which is a multi-use, multi-story building that'll have the tenant buildings in incubator spaces, and we'll have like this social enterprise eatery in that building. We just saw the first kind of floor plans for it, and I'm really excited for what that looks like. I'm not too sure what the timeline looks for that yet, but just being able to see some of the floor plans has been really exciting. And then next would be like a food hub, being able to aggregate and distribute enough foods to be able to reach more impact, and that continues supports local food producers and food access. And then again, in terms of our one farm, being able to expand from 1 acre to 7 acres, so that we can scale up our own food production, to continue supporting farm to school initiatives, and then to continue supporting our direct to consumer markets, which is our farmers markets. This year, we've also been awarded, I don't know if you know anything about like the USDA LFPA program. So local foods procurement assistance, purchase assistance, excuse me. But we were awarded about $1 million to be able to purchase local foods to be able to distribute them out to our community for free. So including within our program, we're going to be doing two things. One is a monthly bison distribution program, and the other is a monthly bi-weekly local food box program. And those food boxes are going to be valued about $100 per box. So that not only supports our local food economy, but it also supports our food security efforts. And then lastly, a second goal for myself is to have a second similar Keokwala Garden size farm in another community across Rosebud. I don't know if you know this, but our community is split up in 20 different communities, and it's all spread out. So it's hard for people to come to just one community, where they have to travel 40 miles round trip just to get to our farm. So we'd like to have other smaller satellite farms where people can learn and go to get local foods. In terms of our Farm Co, which is our large-scale farming operation, they manage about 2,000 acres of organic farmland. Right now, we are only leasing it out. And right now, 90 acres is getting leased out to mixed-use farmers. But we would like to be able to self-lease it, I guess, take that lease back and be able to grow our food for ourselves. And with that, to develop an apprenticeship style program to be able to scale up our food production. And then with our Buffalo Range, our goal is to be able to launch a meat processing facility, so that we can create our own bison products. Some of the business models we're looking at is like a Tom shoe model, where we're kind of exporting premium bison products off reservation to support and subsidize bison, so support the access to community members on the reservation. And then again, this is kind of just going to go into our Food System Vision Prize. Normally with the time I would show like the little 6-minute documentary that the Rockefeller Foundation has created for the 10 finalists. But I'm not going to do that today. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for letting me speak with you all today, and